Well, let's talk about what you've been up to with your music career, man. It's pretty great. You know, this comes across my desk and I think Larry's not stopping. You know,
I can't come up with. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, I mean you are just on the ball. You I see the numbers for this stuff. You know, it's through the roof. 47,000 YouTube plays in just 2 weeks for the one that got away. You know, you're up to 150,000 on Since You've Been Gone. You know, numbers are really great.
Yeah, I feel a little too uninformed to really judge the numbers because I have a 14-year-old daughter. I've mentioned her before, my daughter Ann, and I'll say, hey Ann, new singles out, came out yesterday, got picked up instantly by like the leading AAA station in Austin, Texas, who hadn't played our prior single. They didn't play Since You've Been Gone, but they picked up the one that got away within like 24 hours. And I go, and she goes, yeah, Dad, you know, like Ariana Grande has 300 million Twitter followers,
Yeah.
or a billion YouTube views. And so you see your little unsigned indie band's numbers. And in the back of your head, you know what Ariana is doing and Taylor Swift is doing and some of the newer ones. Like she introduced me to this young girl, Melanie Martinez. She has a single out now called Teacher's Pet. Not unlike the Police. Which was theirs? Not Roxanne. Roxanne was about the hooker. Which was the one where he's singing about having an affair with one of his students. Whatever.
Is it? Yeah. Does it Don't Stand So Close to Me?
Yeah. Don't. Right. Yeah. Please don't stand so close to me. Yeah. So I mean, same idea. You know, teacher, girl, but this one's being sung from the girl's point of view, and she probably has a billion followers by now.
Yeah. Right. You know, and that's, you know, that is one of those unreachable kind of, you know what I mean, a 1 in a million shot.
You get discouraged, but I can't come up with a reason to stop. And when you go through like a 4-day hospital stay, I found myself just sitting there thinking, I got to get the hell out of here and get back to like making music because who knows how much time I have left, you know, like, things start breaking and you don't know what's going to sink you. So you might as well just follow your passion.
Yeah.
You know?
Do what you love, you know.
Yeah. And well, I wish I'd done it when I was younger. I just was too chicken. So
yeah. See, and that's a big message for everybody out there that's listening that's younger. You know, follow your passion, do it. You know,
they should all go watch Steve Jobs' Stanford graduation speech. They can find it on YouTube. Anyone who hasn't seen it needs to see it. Because his message is it's the same message, only way more eloquent than you and I are expressing it now.
Yeah, and that's you know, and from who better to hear it from? You know, that's an amazing story right there. You know, I look at the numbers for you, and it makes me really happy to see that because the numbers for the debut, which is a great record, it's a little more diverse, and it's you know, you're kind of finding your path, I think. But the numbers aren't there. It didn't.
Well, we also didn't have the same, not all of the same team behind us on the debut album. We had the same marketing consultant, a guy named Jonathan Chang, who's been absolutely invaluable in terms of direction in all kinds of ways, artistic direction, graphics, all kinds of things. But we didn't have the radio team behind us, and I guess that's what's making the difference now. It's like anything else. Like when I was a baby lawyer still working in the music industry, it was like, you know, if you were in that little group of music lawyers from whom the A&R guys at the labels would take demos, you know, then you could get people heard. And I guess it's got to be, you know, same with radio. There's a little group of people who the DJs and program directors trust their taste and blah, blah, blah.
Right.
And if you get some of those guys on your side, maybe you'll get heard. I mean, I was frankly stunned to see Since You've Been Gone, the prior single. we broke into the top 150 on the AAA charts, which, if you're my age and, spent a few decades dreaming about doing this, but we're too chicken to do it. And you end up on any chart, you're shocked. But to end up on, even though we didn't crack the top 100, to end up where we did without a label behind us,
Yep.
I was like, okay, let's just keep doing this.
It's awesome. And I checked that out. It's 500,000 plays almost on Spotify now.
Again, Ariana Grande kicks my ass.
Oh, of course she does. She does that to everybody. It's okay. But in reality, 500,000 plays. It's been played 500,000 times, and that's less than a year. That's something. That is really something. It's great to see. It really is that it's breaking through.
It wouldn't happen without guys like you who like our music giving us a shot. So thank you.
Yeah. Oh, you're very welcome. And and the rest of my colleagues playing it for you and getting it out there. That's what music is for me. You follow your passion and I back you with it. It's that I just love musicians. I love people that make music because it enriches my life so much. And any fan of music, I'm sure your memories are drenched with sound. When
you're lucky, there are songs that mark events in your life or eras of your life or relationships that you had. I mean, I still remember, for me, one of the biggest records, like a turning point record, not just for me, but for like the whole country, was my freshman year of college, when I went back to school that September, and the Stones had put out Some Girls, right? 78.
Yeah, right around. Yep.
Summer of 78. And anyone who had spent part of their adolescence in the last half of the 70s, we had been absolutely tortured for the most part on radio by the prominence of disco and some of the soft rock, which was nice and melodic, and sure. But I'll take the Clash over John Denver any day. As much as I like some of John Denver's, there's just too much John Denver, too much America, too much Firefall,
right?
And not enough of bands like the Stones. And then all of a sudden, you had the Stones, the Clash, the Ramones, the Jam, but I remember Some Girls. You couldn't walk around campus for weeks without people having their speakers turned out the windows, blasting that record.
And that's cool. That's and it's like I say, it's a memory that has sound. And you guys as musicians do that for the world. That's a powerful thing, and I don't ever put any kind of, I never take it for granted. It's a great thing.
Well, I feel like you're heaping undeserved praise on us. I just hope that people have fun listening to our music and find something relatable in the lyrics, or something that maybe reminds them of a similar experience in their own lives. I try to avoid, whiny downer songs. I don't see the point in, there's some that I love, but I'm not, that's not what I want to be as an artist,
Right. And, you say that, and, of course the EP, is Love and Loss, Songs of Love and Loss, which could be a downer.
Could have been a big downer, right?
But it is not. And that's the cool thing.
We've tried to keep the tempos upbeat and the sounds, more or less happy. And we tried also where we thought the early version of the song, where the song lent it to this, we tried to go back to our favorite musical decade, the 80s, and we tried to push things in that new wave direction that we weren't together back then. I mean, I knew some of these guys back in the 80s, but all of us independently fell in love with that decade of pop and rock and new wave, and I mean, you had everything going on.
Yeah, you really did.
You really did.
It was really great. Like you said, in the 70s, you really had that adult contemporary John Denver Firefall thing. And you needed that rock act, and you got one, or you got two. In the 80s, there was everything. It was
Everything.
everywhere.
All the guys that had built the industry, had built the rock industry, were still recording. They weren't always together as bands, but they were all still there. And all of their like first and second generation of children almost, had come into their own and were emulating them, and then even surpassing them. I mean, doing things that the classic rock guys had never even conceived of. You go. I was thinking the other day about the Blondie record, "The Tide Is High."
Yeah. Yeah.
You take all their stuff, take Heart of Glass, or any of the other great, and then they come up with this thing that's like something you'd hear on a beach in the Caribbean.
Right. It's got that reggae steel drum thing happening. Yeah.
I love that kind of variety,
It's pretty cool. And you had a ton of it in the 80s, and you're hearkening back to that for sure.
Yeah, but we're doing it, but trying to be not quite as unfocused as we were on the first album.
I noticed that. Yeah. And I wanted to ask you about that too, is these songs are kind of a little more of an electronic dreamy pop thing, really catchy, hooky pop songs. Is that the direction you're going to stay? I know you like diversity, and you like a lot of different things.
I love the diversity that great artists bring to their work. I mean, by the time the Beatles were past their first 3 or 4 albums, they just started to spread their wings, and the industry let them. I think if there's a lesson that we learned the hard way from our first album, it's that you have to get noticed first before you can sort of show off with all the things you can do as musicians and singers. So, I mean, we've largely avoided ballads on the second album. Obviously, you've only heard the first half of the second album, which is the EP we put out, Songs of Love and Loss. But we're trying to keep things up tempo. We're trying to lean on our 80s new wave influences where we can. Not every song has lent itself to that. And then sometimes something just comes out of left field. And I mean, we went with one song where I sang a cappella, the first verse to a song called "How Did I Write This Song?" It's from the perspective of the lead singer sitting alone, working. He's working on that first verse, and as he gets to the end of it, he looks up and he realizes that the girl that he was writing it for isn't even there anymore. She's left him. And I sang it for our producer, Greg Cohen. I didn't have any instrument. A lot of the times I have instrumentation in my head, but on this one I didn't.
Okay.
And I said, "So what do you think?" I said, "I don't have a chorus yet. I just have this verse." He goes, "Well, I love it." He goes, "But you're going to think I'm crazy. I hear this as a bossa nova tune." And I said, "I would never in a million years have heard it that way, but we have an incredibly talented band. And if that's how you hear it, and you're the producer, I'm supposed to trust your instincts. Let's see what the guys can do." And Mike DeCampo and John Makem, our 2 guitarists, they worked on it separately. John and Greg got a few of the basic chord changes down. And then Mike DeCampo, who's spent decades as a professional guitar instructor, he came over to Greg's studio one night with an acoustic guitar, and he goes, "I've never played this stuff before. I've never played bossa nova, but I just locked myself in my room for the last 3 days with a pile of bossa nova records. And I think I can do this." And his first take on that acoustic guitar in Greg's home studio survives on the song to this day.
Nice.
And
nice.
You're sitting there, you're going, is anyone even going to think about playing a bossa nova tune? But it's like, it's just one song. It's not new wave, but in its own way, it might be one of the coolest songs on the record. You can judge when we put out the album later this year.
Yeah, excellent. And you say later this year. Do you have a date?
Don't have a date. I'm struggling with whether we need one more single or alleged single knocked out, or whether we have in the can what we need to launch the album when we put it out as an album. We'll be spending a few months just seeing how the one that got away does it radio and on all the streaming services. So we have some time.
Mhm.
I've started working on a song which comes from the same place as there's a song on the album called Michelle, which is sort of our nod to McCartney's Beatles song, Michelle. It doesn't sound like it, but it's kind of like, let's revisit that Michelle 20, 30, 40 years down the line, see what she's up to.
That's cool.
And we did the same thing. This is on the EP. That's kind of the same idea. Ruby Run Away With Me was triggered in my head when Kenny Rogers passed away, and I was listening to Ruby Don't Take Your Love to Town.
Right.
And so now I've started writing a song that takes its cue, not musically, just in one line, takes its cue from one of Neil Diamond's greats, Sweet Caroline. But in my version, it's called Sweet Caroline Is Gone. It's another song of loss. Okay. And don't have a chorus yet, but the verse is pretty catchy. And maybe it'll show up on the album, or maybe it'll be on the third album. I can't tell you.
Excellent. Always busy. That's great, man.
Yeah,
it's really great. I remember you saying that your daughter was writing a couple of novels. How's that going for her?
She has the ideas sketched out for about 5 or 6 novels.
Wow.
And you never know whether any 14-year-old has the self-discipline to follow it through.
Sure.
She worked on it over the summer, then school started. She's rowing on one of the crew teams out here in Connecticut, and she kind of put it aside. And then over the Christmas holidays, she just started attacking it again. And now she's told me just last week, she's mapped out how many words a week she wants to write between now and either June or August. So her target is to finish the book by June or August. And then if it's any good, we'll go look for a publisher, see what happens.
That's so cool. She sounds so disciplined. When you hear that, do you see yourself in that? Are you that disciplined? I mean, that's really disciplined to have the amount of words.
I've always told her, I'll tell anyone, I don't know. I could not have had the discipline at her age to write a novel or even conceive of a novel. I was 16 probably before songs started writing themselves in my head. And I didn't even really think that was a real thing. It was just something weird that was going on. I couldn't have written, I'd have been shocked if I could have written a decent short story at 14, but she has the passion. I think she has the discipline. I was disciplined in other ways. I was a laser focused little nerdy kid between the ages of 14 and 18. But I couldn't have written a book. I know that.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. Oh, that's a huge task. It is. I know, because I've looked on that barrel and it's daunting. It's hard to see the light at the end of the tunnel.
I don't envy any writer. I used to have issues sometimes with term papers in college, where you start by just staring at that blank page.
Right.
It can be petrifying.
Yep. Absolutely. It is a daunting task much of the time. Yeah. Especially for somebody who doesn't have a passion for it, is forced to write a term paper. It's torture, absolute torture.
I mean, at least in her case, the novel that she's working on, it's her idea, her characters, it's all it's in her head. So, and I'll be surprised if she doesn't finish it. Let's put it that way. I think she will.
That's really cool. That's really cool. Well, tell me about the video. The one that got away, you just released it. It's been out a couple weeks now. I watched this thing, and for one thing, that the girl, she is just the most beautiful thing that's ever been created. She's just adorable. I'm a model, I'm sure. Yeah, I think while she's the girl next door. She's hot and she's all that, but she's more the girl next door. I don't watch it and think any kind of sexuality or anything in it. I watch it and just think I just want to hold her hand and skip through these scenes with her, and that is a really adorable thing that
Yeah.
you've created. And I think it fits the song.
Again, where our videos are concerned, I have to greenlight every video. And sometimes I have the germ of an idea that maybe makes its way into a video. I didn't on this one. We've been super blessed since roughly a year and a quarter ago. We did our first video with Lars Skaland, the Norwegian producer director. He's done every video of ours since we put out Santa Bring My Girlfriend Back at Christmas 2020. And he and our marketing guy, Jonathan Chang, together conceived this thing, sketched it out. It was a deliberate decision to go with a really cute girl next door kind of girl. I think I can pronounce her name correctly, Julie Louise Bielke. Again, I'm not Norwegian. I have no Norwegian blood in me that I'm aware of, pending maybe doing 23andMe someday. But she was perfectly cast. She has this playfulness to her, as she skips through Trondheim. I mean, we were so lucky. It was shot last summer. So we had the right kind of weather. I got to get to northern Norway. I mean, it's just this. I'm blown away by the scenery.
Amazing.
Yeah, just incredible. We get so much value from Lars and his team. Like I owe this guy a big debt of gratitude.
Yeah, like I say, I mean, I watched that, and I feel like, and it's all in Norway.
Yeah, all in Trondheim, all local in Norway. Yeah.
I feel like I've gone around the world just because of the different locations. It's you have a cityscape, you have the beautiful countryside, and everything in between. Art gallery kind of architecture, and just it's a really, really rich and just warm video. Like I say, I feel like I've just held her hand and skipped around the world with the most beautiful girl there is. She's just a sweet
She's amazing. I hope she'll have an awesome career at whatever she decides to do. You get the sense that she's just a really nice girl, but
right.
But that's the official video for the one that got away. We're gonna come at you and the rest of the world with the more sexually charged video when we put out the lyric video sometime later this winter or early spring.
Yeah, and I think we talked about a video for He Reminds Me of You, an idea that you had. How'd that go?
I would love to excuse me. He Reminds Me of You, of the songs that haven't been promoted in some way. It has the most plays on Spotify. I mean, it's been popular on its own without any of us in or working with the High Plains Drifters doing anything to call attention to it. So I'd love to see it released as a single. Putting my marketing hat on, the issue is I'm not the lead singer. John Makem and I are singing the male parts on the song. John wrote the parts that he and I are singing. I wrote the part that Christina Benedetto is singing. And would we be confusing people to all of a sudden come out with a female, one of our backup singers taking the lead? And I go, well, no, it's kind of like what the B-52s used to do.
Yeah.
So who knows? Maybe it'll get a push to be a single. I don't know. I love the song.
Yeah. And I love that the change with having the female vocal in the lead. That's not what your other stuff is. So for that break, to go into that song and hear that female lead. It's like, oh wow, okay.
Christina joins me again on How Did I Write This Song, the bossa nova tune. So there's a little bit of a duet there, and she's phenomenal on it. She's not as prominent. I mean, I'm the lead vocalist on that tune, but what she does on the song is really magical in its own way.
Yeah, and she sounds great on He Reminds Me of You. It's really, it's obviously talent all over that. It's really, I'll be excited to hear what else she has for sure. These songs, they're more electronic pop songs. Have you tried them in a live setting? Because they're keyboard driven kind of.
Yeah, we've talked about what the obstacles will be. COVID is still messing things up just enough to the point that you don't know whether, from day to day here in the tri-state area, whether you have to show your vax card or put your mask on, or, whether nobody's going to want to sit 2 feet from you.
Right.
I think we need to get a little more past that before we think about playing live. We also have I don't call it, it's kind of a problem. We're not 20 or 30 something year old single guys and gals who can just hop in a van and go traipsing off to play a gig somewhere. We have wives and kids and mortgages, and it's just, we have balls and chains, like the Social Distortion song. Take away my ball and chain. We all come with our own balls and chains that have made it hard. It's hard enough to get everyone together sometimes just to record together, but then to playing live, we'll get there. But I think we're going to have to get a little more of COVID behind us first.
Yeah. Do you have arrangements? Do you have a different arrangement planned for like a lot of the stuff? It doesn't seem like it.
Sometimes I wonder if we should be like the reverse of the Beach Boys. Okay, like when Brian Wilson stopped touring with the rest of the guys, he just stayed back with the Wrecking Crew in the old Capitol Records studios and made the records, and then the rest of the guys came in and did the vocal parts with him, and then those guys went back out on the road. Sometimes I think that because we're an older band and we have all these balls and chains and stuff, that like maybe the High Plains Drifters are the band that's always recording the stuff, but we hire a bunch of 25-year-old guys who can tour with me, and put all these young studs out in front, and me in the center hiding my gut, and what happened. Hey,
it's the live thing is complicated now, especially so people are trying all kinds of things.
We've talked about when we release the album, we've talked about doing some sort of live and filmed listening party. So it would necessarily be a little bit stripped down, although we have the great luxury that our producer Greg Cohen, Greg is largely responsible for the 80s new wave synth and keyboard sounds that you hear on the EP. Greg, fortunately for all of us, started his life in music in Manhattan as a keyboardist in a new wave band, and then realized pretty early on that he preferred to produce. But as long as Greg doesn't like croak, I think we have. I mean, Greg would be part of us for purposes of any live performance, because he's that guy for incidental. Whereas when you hear the grand piano, and actually sometimes some of the synthesized stuff is also being done by Charles Zarnecki, who's a world-class pianist.
And that's it's a big part. It's a big part of what you're doing on the EP, at least. It's really, I love that sound. That you get.
I do too. And it's as we map out each song, it's one of the first things that we talk about, which is, you know, it's sort of like, who are our musical influences from the 80s on this song? Is there some classic synth sound from the 80s on a particular song that some subset of us love that we could, borrow from, or not borrow the notes, just
right.
just the synth
The
itself.
feel. Yeah.
The feel, right. The feel.
Yeah.
Yeah. For me, it's all about that the feel you get from that particular era and the synths they were using.
And you've nailed that, because I hear this and I go back to a time. It sparks different feelings. I get that. I really do.
I agree. And it's more than just the synth, though. I mean, listen to the one that got away. Listen to the bass line in there. There are times where Dave Richards, our bass player, it almost sounds like you're listening to New Order at point.
Right. Right. Yeah.
Without
sounding like New
Order. Without copying New Order, you can kind of hear that influence in Dave's playing. And he started playing back in the 80s too.
Yeah. It's great. I love the talent you have with you, that's able to nail that.
I thank all the powers in the universe every single day that through a combination of deliberate decisions and blind luck, we ended up with this lineup of musicians, because they're incredible. And when you do something like, when you have one of those episodes like with Greg and I, where he goes, let's do How Did I Write This Song as a Bossa Nova Tune? and the first thing we found out was that nobody in the band had ever played anything remotely like that, except our drummer, who was like, I played some of this in high school band. I was like, all right, excellent. So you knew that at least your rhythm section was going to be okay.
Right.
But then to see them come at a genre that, leaving aside the drum, no one had ever played before. And I'll say this: you may never hear that song on the radio. How Did I Write This Song? But you listen to it. If it's not one of the best bossa nova songs since the greatest bossa nova song of all time, The Girl from Ipanema.
Yeah.
I'll eat my hat. I think
Look at that.
It's not The Girl from Ipanema, but it is one of the best bossa nova songs released in the last 40 years.
That's awesome. That's cool.
He says humbly.
And that's, and you should be proud, because that is a really, like you say, that you have to have a lot of trust in who you're playing with for somebody to say, I hear a bossa nova tune and everybody goes with it and has the passion and the desire to make it work. That takes a lot of trust and a lot of tenacity, musically, for sure.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
I mean, I'm always putting my trust in the guys, because while I can hear on most of the songs that I write first in my head, while I can hear chords and notes and specific instruments and parts, I can't play any of that. So I'm always trusting to them to translate what's up here into what comes out through the speakers.
Yeah, it's really cool the way you do it. What inspires you to write the most? Is it personal relationships, social issues, television shows? What really gets your juices flowing?
It's usually relationship driven or triggered by things that I see or hear or think about or stumble upon as I'm just roaming around my little corner of the world.
Cool.
I mean, in the case of Songs of Love and Loss, the EP and the album that it's a part of, it's almost universally relationship driven, except for the songs Ruby Run Away With Me, Michelle, and if it makes it there, Sweet Caroline Is Gone. Those are triggered by other people's songs. But since you've been gone, it was about an actual breakup of mine, and this current single, the one that got away, is not about anyone in particular. It's it's one of those whether you're a guy or gal or something in between, we all go through it. It's like, where did that person go? You
Right.
know, where
Right.
did that guy or gal go? Like I thought maybe we had
Yeah.
something
Why?
once,
Why didn't
and
it work?
why
Yeah.
didn't yeah, and what is he or she or they up to now?
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
and so that's where that one came from. Uh, I sometimes talk with our guitarist John Makem about the extent to which actual women in our pasts influence our songs, and whether it's safe to name them. Right?
Maybe not a good idea.
John has a beautiful album of his own out called Unforeseen Circumstances. If any, I encourage people to go look for it. John Makem, Unforeseen Circumstances. And when John gave me a copy of it, I looked and I said, John, are you out of your friggin' mind? They're like your wife's name is Alicia, and I see like 6 out of 12 songs here with the names of girls who aren't Alicia. He goes, Larry, you always have to remind the woman in your life that these are works of fiction. Okay, all right.
Go with that.
You have a very tolerant, loving wife, dude.
That's cool. That's cool. Second album, you say it's coming soon.
Well, I mean, again, it's done. Everything is done. Everything is mixed. We have to master the second half of the album. I think I know what I want to call it. I will publicly preview that here for the first time ever.
Oh, great. Can't wait.
I think we will call it Feeling Funny About Love.
All right.
Which is consistent with the themes of most of the songs on the record. And it also is close to the title of one of the last 2 songs that we recorded, which is called Funny About Love.
Nice.
Very 80s influenced. Again, I mean, poppy, but 80s influenced. Happy song. It's unlike the other songs on the record. It's a very happy song.
We talked about that one last time, and it had Joe Jackson feel to it.
We thought of it as taking some of its cues from Joe Jackson in terms of some of the instrumentation, like from Stepping Out.
Right.
And I think we'll hear that in some of the keyboard parts that Charles Zarnecki just killed. I mean, there's really tasty. The whole song is full of hooks, but some of the keyboard parts are hooks in and of themselves, thanks to Charles. And then my inspiration for how to deliver the lyrics was one of my 80s faves, Elvis Costello. So I think you'll hear a little Elvis influence in my singing, and maybe some Joe Jackson and other 80s influences in the instrumentation.
Oh, man, sounds so great. I can't wait for it, man. It's really cool. In finishing, what's at the top of your bucket list? What do you want to do in life?
My bucket list would be keep making music, but more importantly, like so many Americans and other people in the world, I want to be able to travel again.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, that's really number one on my bucket list. We lucked out last June. I was able to take my wife and daughter and one of my daughter's girlfriends to Antigua in the Caribbean for about 9 days. And it was our first post-COVID trip. It was fabulous. I mean, just to be somewhere else.
Yep.
Contrast that with our experience this past Christmas. I had promised the girls that at some point we would do a Christmas in London, which everyone tells me is one of the world's magical cities at Christmas. I love London to begin with,
right.
But whenever I said this to people who had either spent time there or they said, London at Christmas is just amazing. And so we booked a 2-week London stay, and about 11 or 12 days pre-Christmas, I reached out to 2 of my best buddies. I'll give them a shout out here. Maybe you'll see this interview. Richard Klein and his brother Andrew Klein, natives of London, really good friends of mine. I reached out to the Klein brothers and I said, we're due to fly on the 18th of December. What's going on? And they both wrote back and said, do not come. COVID here is a total shit show. That was on a Tuesday. It was the next morning, December 15th, that my daughter woke up and said she was feeling poorly. And by the end of the day, she had been, I mean, I canceled on the Tuesday, but we would have had to cancel anyway, because the next day my daughter came down with COVID. So we couldn't get away for Christmas. My daughter had COVID. So she technically had to quarantine for 10 days, which took us through Christmas Day. We couldn't see any of the family as a result. It's like we were stuck here. We couldn't go see my mom. We couldn't see any of the cousins. We couldn't see any of the aunts and uncles. So I want to travel. That's really what I want to do.
That's great.
Trondheim, Norway, high on my list.
Yes,
where they filmed the one that got away.
Absolutely, yeah, and everybody go check that out. The one that got away, the video, the single, the whole EP. While you wait for that second album, that video, and looking at Norway and that beautiful lady, it's just, it is warm. It makes me feel warm inside. So as so much of your music does, Larry, and I appreciate you, my friend.
On behalf of all the guys and gals in the High Plains Drifters, I thank you for your kind words. Thank you for giving us some attention. It's hard for us, hard for a little band like ours to get. I'm really grateful to you.
Always, you're always welcome here. And let's do it again when the second one comes out.
When the second album drops, we'll do this again.
All right. I appreciate you, Larry. Thank you.
All right. Thank you.